Okay, Nicholas Ozerac says, how punishing is it to get drunk for the myth of whether texting or driving drunk is worse? We did a bunch of drinking myths. We did hangover cures. And by the way, vigorous exercise and a smack in the face do help. We did is texting and driving as bad as driving drunk. We did is driving having to pee just as bad as driving drunk. I've never been a serious drinker, but one thing about drinking for the show is that if an automobile was involved, it didn't even matter if we were on a closed course and we had police supervision, we were still not allowed to be in control of a vehicle over the legal limit, which in California at that point was 0.08. Am I right about that? Yeah, 0.08. And so we would creep up on it. We would drink enough beers to get to like 0.075 and then drink a little more beer, 0.077, and then like 0.078, okay, we're close. And then we'd do the experiment as close as we could. But each time we did that and I got close to the legal limit, I discovered I don't drink at all. Like I would be close to the legal limit and I was drunker than I usually ever was. That was one surprising thing. The other was like 4 hours later. So, you know, like I do that. I do a drinking and exercising myth or a drinking and driving myth. And it's like midday, you know, we finished 3 or 4 p.m. So by 8 o'clock, I'm like mostly sober, but also a little hungover. And honestly, it is a funny feeling, like having dinner with your kids and you're hungover and it's like 7 p.m. It didn't matter that I knew what I was doing. It just felt kind of wrong. Highly punishing. We stopped doing the drinking myths. I think Jamie and I both found them really taxing on our bodies. I mean, look, in 2010, I gave up drinking for the most part anyway, simply because I was 43. And in your 40s, hangovers last a lot longer than they do in your 20s, where just one greasy breakfast kind of gets rid of it. In your 40s, like it can take up 3 days of your time recovering from a bad night out or a good night out. And so I gave up drinking specifically because I didn't have that kind of time. And so drinking on the job, even for work, as fun as that sounds, and it was fun, we got to choose our liquors. Jamie, that's right. We did a drinking sobriety one where Jamie, oh my God, it was blind driving. Oh, okay. I'm going to tell you the story of blind driving because this is really fun. There is a myth about a guy who got drunk at a party, and even though he's a designated driver, he was not okay to drive. So he convinced his best friend, who wasn't drinking, to drive him home. The issue is, in the myth, the friend who did the driving was blind. And so the question is, can you give a blind person instruction to drive a car, number one? And number two, can you do that while you're drunk? And so first, we found a blind guy who, it wasn't his first time driving. Well, no, actually, I'm sorry. The very first thing we did was we went out to a closed track and Jamie and I each put on blindfolds while the other instructed us how to drive. Make a left, turn the wheel to the left, turn the wheel to the right. We were both terrible at taking instruction for driving. We were absolutely abysmal at it. And when we talked about why we were bad at the driving blind, it's because when you close your eyes, what lingers in your mind and what you hold on to is a map of the room that you're in, of your immediate space. You do that so that you can feel safe and you're not gonna bang into anything. And when you have a lingering image of what the world looks like and you're driving a car, no matter how slowly, and someone says, make a left, you start to turn the wheel to the left and then you kind of picture a world and you start adjusting to the world you see in your head. And you are not doing a good job at it. And I say this all in contrast to the blind guy we brought in after Jamie and I did our testing. And he turned out to be a better driver than both of us. And it was really specifically because as a person without sight, when he took instruction from someone, he followed it to the letter because That's what works. So when you told our blind test subject to make a left, he just turned the wheel like this until you told him to stop turning the wheel, and then he turned it back. He was unburdened by a mental image of the world. So this was already a fascinating story to me. And this is all about drinking, right? Yes. So then we went down to this amazing little former military housing area in Monterey, which we called Zombie Town. And it was basically like an abandoned neighborhood with a rabbit warren of streets, a couple miles of streets, and houses all over the place that were decrepit. But it was where we shot a lot of driving stories. We did Spy Car there and some other stuff. And we go down to this place we call Zombie Town, and we do some more tests with the blind guy, and now it's time to get Jamie drunk, and he's gonna be in the back seat giving our blind guy instructions on how to drive. And Jamie was like, can I choose my liquor? We're like, absolutely. He's like, I'd like to drink some Maker's Mark. We're like, great. So he gets a nice bottle of Maker's Mark, and he like says to us, do you think it would be funny if I sat in the gutter and drank it? And we were like, Jamie, that would be very funny. And then Jamie sits in the gutter and is sitting there. And we had greeked out the logo of Maker's Mark. Of course we had. But the distinctive red wax neck of a Maker's Mark bottle was visible. And Maker's Mark was really pissed about this image of Jamie Heineman sitting in a gutter drinking. And we had 2 cops there. It was so funny. And again, we get him, he didn't have to stay below the legal limit because he wasn't in control of the car. He's in the back seat. So Jamie just gets himself good and drunk, and then we do some field sobriety tests with him. I remember this specifically because if you love the show like I do, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, hosted by Peter Sagal on NPR, you might have heard the episode I was in. It just played a few months ago, and I recorded that episode during the filming of that story. I was in Monterey in my car recording answers to Peter Sagal's questions while we were filming that story, and Jamie was slowly getting drunk. So Jamie gets drunk, does some field sobriety tests, he's officially drunk, he gets in the back seat of our test car, the blind guy gets behind the wheel, and I get into the chase car, and I use the word chase very expansively because the most amazing thing happens the moment the blind guy starts moving the car with Jamie in charge. And that is, it is completely apparent to us in the car behind that a drunk person is in charge of the car. It's amazing. I said, the blind guy is excellent at taking instructions. Well, here's drunk Jamie making his calls and changing his mind, and the car is like going really slow, and then it's going fast, and then it's turning too much, and then it's overcorrecting, and it's like, it's really clear that a drunk person is in control of the car. And so I'm in the chase car talking to the camera, right? It's like Jamie's there where you are, I'm here, camera's filming us, I'm talking about what's happening. And it's like the funniest thing I've ever seen. And by the time Jamie goes through the course that we have set out for him, he gets out and he's like, well, I think that went just fine. And we are all on one knee, like pissing ourselves laughing. Spectacular. So I think that was about the last time we did drinking myths, because like I said, Jamie and I found it taxing on our bodies. And I do remember when Tori and Carrie and Grant did hangover myths, I felt real sorry for poor Grant. He took that one on the chin. That was a rough story for poor Grant. Hangover myths, man. I'm really glad we didn't do that one. So yeah, pretty punishing to drink for scientific testing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a tested member. I know, everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tested membership has become such an important part of the Tested family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tested members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to. And you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.